Hello everyone. This is 8th grade English lecture for the 1st of February. I am teaching for my mother this week, so you'll have to bear with me if I'm rusty on my English. I teach a lot of Latin and not much English. Okay, so what we would have done in class is first I would have taken up your grammar pages. So instead of taking them up, I would like you to email them to my mom, and you need to email them tomorrow. You can take a picture of each page and send that to her. All right. Next, I would have handed out your new assignment sheet for the 3rd quarter. I will email that to you if she has not already emailed it to you. Notice we are, see if I can mark this page up here. We are right here, 2-1. And this week your homework is in the grammar section to do pages 160 through 164. Notice that you are to this week grade your own work, grade your own pages. That's because you have your test coming up. And she wants you to be able to review and use your pages for the week as a review and as a guide for your test. In a minute, we will go over some of those exercises and go over some of the most likely ones to be on your test. Okay, in the writing section, you're to complete a character sketch of historical figure assigned by Mr. Grissom. So, which chapters? Let's see. All right, you can choose any character from this week's history or next week. Okay, and let's see, I'm making sure I got that right. Yeah, you can choose any character from those 2 weeks, and the assignment is to be 1/2 to 2/3 of a page. Okay, that's your assignment. Let's read about that assignment more. What is a character sketch? So this is in your textbook on page 159, but let's read over these. You can pick either one of these 2 options. So exercise M for your character sketch would be write a paragraph describing some unusual person that you have been able to observe closely. First, make a complete list of the details that you may use in describing this person, such as age, hair, expression, eyes, clothing, posture, height, etc. Decide what impression you want to convey and select from your list of details those that will contribute to that impression. Pattern your paragraph after model paragraph 13 or 14. Okay, so if you choose this option, you're going to describe the person primarily physically with these descriptions about age or hair, etc. Make sure that you are deciding on an impression you want to make and then using your details to support that impression you want to make. The other option you could choose is exercise N. Write a character sketch similar to model paragraph 15. Select a person you have observed closely. Decide what quality you want to illustrate. Use some examples and an incident or just an incident to illustrate this quality. Show the person in action. Remember to apply suggestions 3 and 4 from page 149. So in exercise N, the emphasis that you would be describing would be more about their personality or their character. So exercise M is more about their physical appearance and the impression that gives you, or exercise N gives you more of a look at their character or their personality. So either exercise that you choose, you want to make sure that you're not just giving, this is not like the Kentucky history play. So in that sort of biographical play, you were to give a bunch of facts about the people, a bunch of history about the people. In this case, you're not really focusing on that. You're just choosing a historical figure and giving the impression that they make on you, and then providing details either about their appearance or about their character that illustrate your impression. All right, back to our assignment page. All right, so you've just finished Little Women, and you're starting on with Lee and Virginia, so keep reading that in your literature section. And again, just remember that you're going to have a test next week over the grammar. All right, now what about your grammar pages? Let's look at some of them. Exercise D, or let's see, you may omit, sorry, I forgot to mention this, you may omit exercise A on page 160. You do not need to do that exercise. On page 161, exercise D will be especially useful to you for preparing for your test. So let's look at it. Uses in the sentence. Above each italicized word, write its use. S for subject, V for verb, D, O for direct object, I, O for indirect object, P, N for predicate nominative, O, P for object of the preposition, A, P for appositive, and D, A for direct address, or A, D, J for verbal used as an adjective. So here I'm just going to look at a couple of these. I think you probably already know how to do them. Number 1, Denmark and Sweden are countries of Scandinavia. So the subject, the compound subject of this sentence is Denmark and Sweden, so we put the S there. They are countries. Following a to be verb, we have a noun referring back to Denmark and Sweden and identical with them, so that's our predicate nominative. And then we have an object of the preposition of in Scandinavia. Number 2, the scarlet tanager, a songbird, is red except for its wings and tail. Okay, we have more going on here. So again, our subject is tanager. Okay, the set off by commas, a songbird, is the appositive. It's an appositive referring to tanager and describing it more. Is red except for its wings, so and tail. Wings and tail are both an object of the preposition except for here, and so they are objects of prepositions. We'll do one more. So, consisting of 3 persons, the Trinity includes the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. So, consisting here is a participle. I'm doing my Latin. It's a verbal referring to or used as an adjective describing the persons. All right? Or rather, describing the Trinity. So, consisting is an adjective. Consisting of 3 persons. Here we have an object of the preposition of, and so we label that OP. Our subject is the Trinity, and it includes the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. These are the direct object. They answer the question what of the verb. All right, I'll let you finish that exercise on your own. But that one is one that will be very useful for your test. All right, lost my place. Okay, another set of exercises that will be helpful are exercise J and K. And just a note, you may omit to do exercise L. You do not need to do that. Okay, so let's look at exercise J. Using noun phrases. 1. Put parentheses around gerund phrases. 2. Underline infinitive phrases. And 3. Above each phrase, write its use. Is it the subject, the direct object, the predicate nominative, an objective preposition, or an appositive? All right, so the first one, to disobey your parents, is to obey God's commandments. I'm noticing that they didn't use the parentheses as was requested. Oh, no, parentheses are just for gerund. Sorry. We're underlining infinitive phrases. So, to obey your parents is an infinitive phrase, which is the subject of the sentence. And the predicate nominative is to disobey God's commandment. Number 2, Antonia's favorite activity is camping in the mountains. So there we have a gerund phrase marked by this ing on the end of that verb. Camping in the mountains. It's the predicate nominative of the sentence because it's following a to be verb and it's identical to the subject. One more. We are commanded to obey God with a cheerful heart. So this is a infinitive phrase because it starts with to, and it's the direct object because it answers the question what of the verb. All right, so much for that exercise. That will also be useful for your test. And exercise K, using noun clauses. 1, put brackets around each noun clause. 2, above each clause write its use, subject, direct object, predicate nominative, object of the preposition, or appositive. All right, number 1, do you know if my mother called? Here is a noun clause, so we put it in parentheses. It's the direct object of the sentence following the verb know. Number 2, Aaliyah is whom you are looking for. Here, it's the predicate nominative because it's following a to be verb and is identical to the subject. And the clause is whom you are looking for. And number 3, what Liam likes best is whatever challenges him the most. So we have 2 here. The first one is the subject, what Liam likes best. And the second one is whatever challenges him the most. And it's again following a to be verb and identical with the subject. All right, so those are the exercises which are most useful in studying for your test. You do have to do all the exercises except for A and L between pages 160 and 164. And I will remind you one more time that your test is next Monday. All right. Before I get off of here for the day, we're going to talk a little bit about Louisa May Alcott. I'm sure my mom would have done a great job of this, a much better job than I will, but I will give it a go with the help of Britannica.com. Okay, Louisa May Alcott was a daughter of the transcendentalist Bronson Alcott. Louisa spent most of her life in Boston and Concord, Massachusetts, where she grew up in the company of Ralph Waldo Emerson, Theodore Parker, and Henry David Thoreau. Ralph Waldo Emerson is a famous transcendentalist poet, and Henry David Thoreau is a philosopher in the same field. Her education was largely under the direction of her father, for a time at his innovative Temple School in Boston, and later at home. Alcott realized early that her father was too impractical to provide for the family after trying to found a utopian community, and Louisa Alcott's lifelong concern for the welfare of her family began early. She taught briefly, worked as a domestic, and finally began to write. So she was not from a wealthy family, and she was always concerned about the welfare of her family. Just a note, transcendentalism, that's a big word there. Transcendentalism is an idealistic philosophical and social movement which developed in New England around 1836 in reaction to rationalism. Influenced by Romanticism, Platonism, and Kantian philosophy, it taught that divinity pervades all nature and humanity, and its members held progressive views, and Ralph Waldo Emerson and Henry David Thoreau were central figures of that movement. So that's the movement that her father was involved in, Bronson Alcott. Alright, here's a picture I found of her home. This is the home of Bronson Alcott and his family, including Louisa May Alcott. That's in Concord, Massachusetts. And I think this is a wood engraving of it. Oh, now I've drawn on it. Whoops. My bad. Oh. Alright. Alcott produced potboilers at first, and many of her stories were not great. The later works are unusual in their depiction. Moving on. She volunteered as a nurse after the American Civil War began, but she contracted typhoid from unsanitary hospital conditions and was sent home. She was never completely well again. The publication of her letters in book form, Hospital Sketches, brought her first taste of fame. Her stories began to appear in the Atlantic Monthly, and because family needs were pressing, she wrote the autobiographical Little Women. It's important to note that Little Women, the story that you actually read, is very autobiographical. It's informed by her own experience in life, and some of the hardships that the girls endure in Little Women are similar to the hardships that she endured herself. Based on her recollections of her own childhood, Little Women describes the domestic adventures of a New England family of modest means but optimistic outlook. And you all know the characters, so I don't need to read that to you. She was able, by that book, to pay up all the debts, thank the Lord, she wrote. And she wrote two sequels, Little Men and Jo's Boys and How They Turned Out. Little Women also inspired numerous movies, and yes, here's a picture I found of an old cover. I thought that was pretty. And one more picture of her for good measure. Alright. Finally, except for a European tour in 1870 and few briefer trips to New York, she spent the last 2 decades of her life in Boston and Concord, caring for her mother, who died in 1877 after a lengthy illness, and her increasingly helpless father. Late in life, she adopted her namesake, Louisa May Neuricker, I can't say her name, the daughter of her late sister, May. Her own health, never robust, also declined, and she died in Boston 2 days after her father's death. All right, so there's a little bit about Louisa May Alcott, and I'll remind you one more time to turn in your grammar pages for this week by emailing them to my mom, and that is all. God bless you.